I just got back from, was it 4 or 5 days? I don't know. My brain is cooked from Scramble Camp, the first ever Scramble Camp in Malaga.
Sounds like you had a good time, man.
Yeah, yeah. It was, there were 7 training sessions. They were all 2 hours long, 1 hour seminar, 1 hour open mat, all no gi. Um, and it was a great success. Yeah, I wasn't, I mean, I was hoping that it would be a success, but it just went really, really well. The seminars were good, the training was good, weather was good, food was good, beers were good. Not so good in the mornings, but it was a really good trip. I am knackered though.
Did it make the training a little bit tough, those morning sessions?
Yeah, I got to handicap myself. I got to give people a
Ah,
chance.
yeah. For sure, for sure. It sounds great. I mean, it sounds you pretty much replicated what happened at the leg lock camp earlier this year and the same thing, right? The Scramble Academy, Santeri's gym there in Spain. And
Yeah,
I was lucky enough to go to that one,
that's right.
which was awesome. But I'm very sad I missed this one because it looked really fun. And you had I mean, the last one had tons of pros, but you seemed to assemble like a pretty good team of instructors for this one. Who was there?
So we worked pretty closely with the leg lock camp boys because if they wanted to, they could have done their own leg lock camp. I think they've done 2 a year at Santeri's before, but they agreed to come and help us with Scramble Camp. So that's Mateusz Szczecinski and Camille Wilk. Then we had Chelsea Lee, who is an AOJ black belt, runs a gym in England called Escapology with her husband Tom. Dan Strauss was there. We brought Imanari over from Japan. We also brought Kenta. I mean, he is Japanese, but he is all over the place, so we didn't bring him from Japan.
He's been doing a kind of a tour of sorts in Europe, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's basically been non-stop since CGI for him, I think. So yeah.
All right. It's in squads. Yeah.
Yeah. He went CGI, squads, seminar tour, scramble camp. Yeah, and he's finally back in Japan now. He had to leave kind of quickly for some personal reasons, but he was there, which was cool. And of course, Santeri, who was hosting it in Scramble Academy, Spain. So it was a good lineup. Yeah. And then like a
Nice.
bunch of athletes that we sponsor made the trip as well, from all over, basically. So yeah, it was a good mat. Yeah.
It was a scramble gathering.
Yes.
That's really cool. What do you, apart from the training, as obviously, a kind of an opportunity to get all these scramble guys together, which I can imagine probably only happens at events like Polaris and stuff. What kind of other stuff did you do while you were there with the guys? Did you do any brand specific stuff too?
So I made a point of not arranging anything. I didn't want to turn it into like a sort of adult play, what's the word? Like a creche where we're going to tell, grown adults what to do and where to go and everything. So it was like, look, you have to be at the gym at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. and that's it. The rest of the time is your time. And people took advantage of it. Like Imanari came with his wife and they went to like a violin concert or something in some people went jet skiing, like they were just doing their own thing, but I did get everybody together for a dinner on the Friday night.
It's good food out there too.
Very, very good food. Yeah, that was an interesting gathering, so some very people from very different walks of life, but it was nice to have everyone together. I actually went with 5 other people in a group, from my gym, so we were fairly busy most of the time. But I did bring a bunch of samples and we took some good photos. We've got this flame set that we're calling 1998, and I kind of gave it to the guys, and pretty much instantly everybody was all over them. So that gave us some encouragement. We're actually going to release it tomorrow, Friday, so maybe the same time as this, based on how good the reception was. Yeah,
this is the one that was inspired by the Japanese soccer team kit from
that's
1998.
right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. So the scramble gathering then, which is what I'm going to call it from now on. It looked really fun. It looked really, really fun. And what was the training like? Because the format of what you said, it's rather than just doing like a bunch of seminars, which is kind of often what a lot of these vacation camps sort of turn into. It's just like a seminar in the morning, a seminar in the evening. he seemed to follow the template of the leg lock camp, which was like just an hour of technique, an hour of training, twice a day. So it sounds like you spent quite a lot of time on the mat. Did you get to roll with some of these guys, the big
Yeah,
names you just listed?
man, I lost 6 kilos.
Wow.
It was intense. And I do it like that because I don't know, like you've been training a long time, same as me, but there's only so many techniques I can maintain interest for. And if I go home without having got a sweat on, I feel like I've almost like I've wasted my time. You know,
Right.
I hate that feeling because I have a lot. Yeah, I just love sparring. I think everybody loves sparring.
Yeah, plus you just can't retain it. It's like, something you learn on Thursday morning, by Friday afternoon, you've had
Yeah,
3 sessions since then. You can't retain that
exactly. And
information,
if,
can you? Yeah.
especially, yeah, if you haven't pressure tested it or if you haven't played with it a little bit with someone else, you can't remember it. So when the leg lock camp boys structured their camps like that, I was like, this is brilliant because,
Yeah.
there's an hour of technique which may or may not be relevant to your game. It's either going to really help you out and you're going to love it, or it's short enough that you can practice the techniques, have a couple of goes, and then you're sparring for the next hour. So you go home feeling satisfied. But the fact that we were sparring every day was amazing, and all those guys were joining in the whole time. Imanari was there for every session, and he didn't say no to anybody.
Wow.
I didn't end up training with. I didn't train with Mateusz, didn't train with Camille, didn't roll with Dan this time, or Santeri. I mean, not mostly because I know how those rounds are going to go, and also like, and also they like to train with each other. They like to work on new techniques. They're almost like in a little group in the corner, figuring out crazy new bolos and leg locks.
You train with the regular humans instead, right?
Train with the regular humans, but some of the very good regular humans that we sponsor. Yeah, but overall was very, very good training. I didn't really say no to anybody either, and I put a good hour or I put a good 2 hours in every day. Yeah, man, lost 6 kilos. I didn't eat enough probably, but
It's insane. That is a lot of weight to lose. I did
yeah,
enjoy that about the leg lock camp that I went to, and it's kind of like you said, it's very similar. You pretty much replicated it for the Scramble camp. I only trained with a couple of pros when I was there earlier this year. Taylor Pearman and Christian Osbeck, I think, were the only two pros I trained with, and they were very nice to me,
yeah,
which I appreciate because I don't have a lot to offer them when it comes to that. This the level that they're at, and obviously the big age difference there. I've got probably close to 20 years on those guys, so it was very nice that they were being nice to me. But it is great though that you can get good rounds with anybody in the room, and there are some really talented guys from all over coming to these events. And actually, I was also surprised with the locals as well.
yeah,
And when I say locals though, it's kind of weird because I did notice that Santeri's gym, Malaga is well known for having a lot of, let's call them expats, right? A lot of people from all over Europe relocate to the south of Spain because it's a nice place to live. And I noticed that there are British guys there, there are Irish guys there are guys from Germany and other countries. And I ended up rolling with a lot of people who are based locally, but they're not Spanish. And that was kind of cool because one thing I love about these camps, and you probably too, is that I kind of love getting that taste of the sort of the international flavors of jiu-jitsu, like, and kind of getting a level or sort of getting an insight as to what the level is like from different places, and seeing sort of how the jiu-jitsu is growing all across the place. And they got some really, really tough guys there, some really high level jiu-jitsu. I think Santeri's definitely created something special there at the Santeri gym, and he's been there years now, right?
I believe he's been in Spain for like 12 years or something. Might be wrong. But the academy is going from strength to strength. And like many places, it kind of becomes a snowball effect. Like once you can get over that, initial hump, once you get some good people there, then more good people come, and then they create more good people. And then suddenly you've got a huge group of really good guys.
Yeah, that's really cool. So Mateusz is he's healthy again because earlier this year he tore his bicep pretty badly, and he said that he was going to be back on the mats relatively soon, but it take a while to get back up to like competition shape. How is he doing?
He feels 100%. I think some people are still kind of worried about him, but yeah, he looks like he's doing great. His arm, the side, he tore his bicep, but the side, his arms look normal again. He was rolling, he was teaching. He said he's training hard, so he's doing squads in a couple of weeks. So
yeah, he's got 2 weeks to get ready for squads. So
yeah,
I hope he's in shape.
yeah,
because he's one of the best guys. I mean, I say best guys; they're all awesome on the team. But Mateusz is the kind of guy that you send out when you need a submission. Right?
He's a finisher.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Might touch on squads a little later because that's coming up, like you said, pretty soon. And I'm very excited. I'm going to come over for that as well to see the final. So that's great. But we kind of listed a couple of things to talk about in this episode. And one of the big things that we wanted to talk about was about training with pros. Because I think this is one of the unique things about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that unlike other sports, hobbyists and just normal practitioners, people who have no designs or desire to compete whatsoever, we have this amazing privilege to be able to go into different gyms around the world or to receive travelers as they make their way around the world. And we can actually get hands-on and we can train directly with some of the best guys in the world, which is absolutely insane because, a Sunday league footballer is not going to have a kick around with Cristiano Ronaldo. Or a guy who plays basketball at the local rec gym in the States is never going to have a pickup game with freaking Steph Curry or, LeBron or something like that. So we're kind of in an interesting position of being able to train with very, very high level guys and not just learn from them in a class setting, but actually roll with them. And that's kind of one of the topics we wanted to talk about today was our experiences of training with pros. And we listed a couple of things here to talk about because I think it's important first to talk about, who are some of the best guys we've had the privilege of training with, but also to kind of get into what we learned from them and also sort of the war stories, let's say, of us traveling around and going up to friendly or not so friendly gyms and running the gauntlet of enforcers that sometimes happens. And also maybe we can just pass on some things about how to get the most out of gym visits. So we've both been around a bit. You've traveled a lot, and also you've been quite fortunate to hang out, be in very close proximity with some really high level pros. And on our show notes, you mentioned here that you've got some stories about Quintet in Las Vegas. What was this then? What's this story?
I can't remember which quintet it was. Maybe it was Quintet 3, the first one they did in Vegas. And we had Team Polaris. And then, so off the top of my head, it was Satoshi Ishii, who's a friggin' Olympic gold medalist in judo. Craig, he wasn't in the team, but he was hanging out with us. Craig Jones, Gregor Gracie, Vitor Shaolin, Marcin Held, and Dan Strauss, right? And we kind of rented a big car. My business partner Ben was driving it around. We went to, I think, like a Six Blades affiliate to train, and it was just ridiculous. We did a few rounds with those guys, and man, I think Ishii. Up until that point, I probably felt that Strauss was the strongest person that I'd trained with. But when Ishii got his hands on me, like physically, like that, I was like, holy shit. Like that was an unbelievable level of strength that I'd never really felt before. And I was like, oh, this is what, judo guys are strong anyway. And then like an Olympic and national gold medalist is like a next level of strong. That was a tough round. Then I did a round with Craig. I think that might have been my first or second time with him. And I don't know if you've probably rolled with him before. He feels like a frog that's made of steel or something. Like his body was so low to the ground, but his legs were high up. And I was like, how do I deal with this? Like he was unsweepable. Obviously we knew how good he was then. We didn't quite know that he was, number 2 in the world at that point. But I was like, fuck, this guy's good.
Yeah, that's
Gregor
actually
Gracie.
a really good
on,
description of Craig. Sorry about say like a frog made of steel. It is insane how strong Craig is. And he's very tall and very lanky. And you're right that his limbs are just ridiculous. Did he do that kind of the classic butterfly guard sweep and kind of send you like about 6 feet into the air with that hook that he does? Did he
No,
do
I
that
know
to you?
exactly what that sweep is. I mean, he probably
Yeah.
did. I just don't. I just remember trying to sweep him, and just it was like I'd got my foot under an iron gate, and I was trying to lift it up. I was like, what?
Yeah. He did that classic sweep to me. Again, he was very nice to me. I think I rolled with him in it was at 10th Planet. It was at like a 10-round Tuesday or an open mat or something at 10th Planet in Austin one time. It was just around the time that they moved to Austin. And he invited me to roll. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay. Not sure really what I can give you. But again, he was very nice to me. But, oh, man, like, if you've ever looked at videos of Craig abusing people and just doing whatever he wants to them in a role and thinking like, oh, come on, this can't be real. It is 100% real. It is
Yeah,
ridiculous, like what that guy does. He's very playful, and he really enjoys just tossing guys around with ridiculous techniques. So yeah, that was.
yeah,
He is insanely strong. Like you said, wiry and just
yeah,
big and
yeah,
weird guy to roll against for sure.
yeah, yeah. He's got that like savant understanding of jiu-jitsu combined with insane flexibility and strength and playfulness. Yeah, pretty cool.
And then who else? You said Gregor was there as well. Gregor's insanely good too.
Gregor's ridiculous, dude. I don't think he gets enough credit. Like
He doesn't.
we've called on him 2 or 3 times, sometimes last minute and he just turns out he does amazing. Craig went through everyone. When we went to Tokyo, Craig was, creontied over to B team and left Team Polaris and was doing some damage. And then Gregor came out and gave it to him. So
Gregor is, like I say, insanely underrated, and I
yeah.
just don't think he's ever had that like the big breakout moment to really sort of make his mark on the jiu-jitsu scene. But if you
Oh, on
look
the
at
pro scene, yeah.
yeah, but if you look at any of Gregor's matches, they're always insane. They're always really, really close. Like he is
Yeah.
just so freaking good. But it's kind of weird as well. I think that a lot like many of the guys from that sort of that area of the Gracie family, but he always split his focus between jiu-jitsu and sort of designs to fight MMA. So he was never like 100% in one or the other. He's always kind of bouncing around. And I sometimes wonder like how things might have been different had he gone all in on jiu-jitsu and just focused on that. I think Gregor could have been one of the best in the world in his weight for a
Yeah.
few years. Yeah,
I definitely
he's really good.
agree with that. I mean, he's got plenty of accolades in the gi, and he has a very successful school. So I guess those things keep him busy. But like
Yeah.
you said, if he decided I'm just going to do no gi super fights from now on, he would have crushed.
And then I looking at your notes here, and you've just got a couple of names on there as well. Eddie, Dillon. Is this Eddie Cummings and Dillon Danis?
Yeah. So my Eddie experience is he was in England for Polaris. I think when he fought Tanquinho, and it was him and Octavia, and they messaged like quite late a few days before, and they're like, "Can we just meet up real quick and do some training?" And obviously, I was like, "Yes." So we went to the Scramble warehouse, and at the time, we had less stock back then because it was a few years back, and we had a big training, like a matted training area. So just a couple of us drove over there, met them there, and they train very specifically. I'm sure you have experience as well. It's lots of like positional stuff. How hard can I turn this until your leg is actually going to explode? Like they were always talking about breaking mechanics and feeling when limbs and ligaments feel like they're about to snap. And they were doing that for a while, and we were just kind of watching. And then finally, after a while, he was like, "Do you want to do a round?" And I said yes. And it was possibly the most humiliating round I've ever done. He had insane grip strength, insane like adductor strength or whatever when he clamps his legs together. And just every movement was taking it right to the point of almost like injury, but not actually injuring me and still being very nice. But I think he tapped me like 7 times in a round, and including 2 double heel hooks where both of my legs were like under his armpits, and he could have just gone skadoosh and like really ruined my day twice in one round. plus a bunch of other taps. I was just like, holy shit.
Jeez. Yeah, I never trained with Eddie.
Yeah.
But I was looking through some old footage that I had of Eddie Cummings. I don't have a ton. But I was looking through some old videos that I shot with Eddie Cummings back from like 2015, some more a few years later as well. And to be honest, what happened to you happens to every single one of his training partners every round. It seemed like in some of those rounds, it was like every 25, 30 seconds, it was like leg lock, bang, leg lock, bang, leg lock, bang. And exactly as you described as well, you know, the way that he would get that leg, and he wouldn't rip the leg locks on because, of course, this was training, but the guys were tapping with a look of panic and fear on their face. It was like, no, and they would make sure they were like drumming his leg to make sure that he knew that my leg is like a millimeter away from, just like you said, separating into two parts. So yeah, I never trained with Eddie Cummings, but I did train with Dillon Danis. I also walled Dillon once. And I got to say, that was actually really fun. Like Dillon was super playful, right?
Yes.
He's got like a very relaxed, very open kind of style. It really doesn't put like a lot of strength into moves. Just it's more about the kind of the flow. And I trained with him at, where was it? I want to say it was at the Ruka warehouse in Costa Mesa. We went down there because it was around the time of like Pans one year, I think, and Pans is in Irvine, which is just a few miles away from Costa Mesa. So we would often swing by the Ruka warehouse. They've got a huge gym in there. They used to have a lot of pros train there, both MMA and Jiu-Jitsu. It's just down the street from AOJ as well. So a guy called Zach, who's Zach Nominski, a black belt under the Mendez brothers, and he's super friendly with Dillon. They're good friends. So he brought Dillon through the Ruka gym to train, and I think there were a bunch of other guys. I think maybe that day, like Tommy Langacker was there and some guys from GF team as well. But I got to roll with Zach and Dillon because they were just doing their own thing while the GF team guys were lining up to take out Tommy. That was kind of fun to watch. But yeah, Dillon was actually a really, really fun training partner. And, you know, again, I'm kind of sad that Dillon never really sort of got to show the jiu-jitsu world again, sort of like, you know, what he's capable of, because he had some good performances here or there, never really won anything major at black belt. But when you consider some of the super fights that he had, especially like that one against Gary on Polaris, man, Dillon's jiu-jitsu was so freaking good, right?
Yeah, he was incredibly talented. My experience was the same as yours, very soft, very playful, you know, just completely dictating the entire round without really appearing to have to try. Yeah, brown belt, he was the brown belt, the dream team from Marcelo's. And I don't know what happened. I guess like he became friends with Connor, and then that lifestyle kind of took over him a little bit. But yeah, like the match with Gary on Polaris was amazing. He gave Gordon his toughest match until Gordon lost at ADCC. Yeah, he was just incredible at jiu-jitsu for sure.
He was, really was. And then you also trained a lot in Japan, which is something that I never got to do as well. When you were living in Japan, did you travel around and train quite a lot, or did you get more of that experience of visiting the high level gyms after when Scramble was up and running?
I've definitely had a lot more of it in recent years with Scramble and Polaris, but when I was just a regular Joe living in Japan and working every day, like a dog, I trained under a Pariestra affiliate, which goes back to Yuki Nakai, the kind of, I guess, famous Japanese MMA fighter, judo guy that now
the OG
runs a big jiu-jitsu kind of affiliate worldwide.
And side note, wasn't Yuki Nakai the first Japanese guy to be given a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think his claim to fame in that sense is that the IBJJF themselves gave him the belt.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. I'm pretty sure he was the first Japanese guy to be given a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu and in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And like you said, awarded by the IBJJF. But I think that it was kind of interesting because he'd never technically trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu up until that point.
And I interviewed him about it, and I basically said, oh, so after Hickson beat you, you were like, oh, wow, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is amazing. Now I need to start learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was like, no. I wanted to kill Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Well, he didn't exactly say that, but he was like, I wanted to prove that my Kosen Judo and all my like Newaza stuff was just as good. So he would just go to Worlds and as a white belt and just kill everyone. And then I guess they gave him a blue belt straight away. Then he'd kill everyone again. Then, you know, the federation was like, you can't keep turning up as a lower belt. So I guess he reluctantly moved up the ranks, but, you know, he never formally trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is interesting.
That is pretty wild.
But as far as I know, you know, so I trained under a Pariestra gym, and the kind of pilgrimage for everybody was to go to the headquarters in Tokyo, and they had this thing called Hiru Jiu-Jitsu, which means lunchtime Jiu-Jitsu, and it was basically an open mat that at the time, I think it's less popular now, but at the time everyone was there, and it was like a tiny little basement. You've been there, but it was wall to wall with like the top black belts, and this was back in the day before everybody had like Google Maps for everything. And I remember my instructor like printing out a little diagram of how to get there, because their headquarters is not in the center of Tokyo. It's like half an hour train ride on a weird line that no one normally gets, you know, and it's in a place called Nerima. There's like nothing there. There's a crossroads and a pharmacy, and, you know, but I remember like following these little instructions and walking from the station and then just going down there, and that was hard training. A bunch of guys I'd never heard of, just, you know, killing each other.
Like the old days of printing out the MapQuest directions rather than Google Maps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually also like super hard to find. I mean, we had Google Maps by the time I went around there, and you're right, it was like out in this sort of, you know, really sort of very quiet neighborhood, just like you say, sort of like way out from the center of Tokyo, and it's kind of like just this very nondescript sort of like office building, and you go in and then go down. It's in the basement. There's like the sign is about this big, right? Yeah, so the size of a postcard. But yeah, it's also that gym was like the size of my living room, or smaller. It was freaking tiny, and that classic Japanese thing that I saw it for the first time in Japan. I've seen a few places do it since, but that classic thing of when you've got different bodies rolling on the mat, and then you've got somebody walking around with like a square of jigsaw map to have like put it in to separate the pairs so they don't kick each other or roll into each other while training. That's kind of funny.
That's a pretty normal sight in Japan. All the gyms are very small and there's lots of people there.
Yeah, real estate's such a premium, right? It's rare to see like a big gym with a ton of mat space.
Yeah. I mean, in Japan, there's no shortage of there's famous names, and then there's also just tough guys, you know. I mean, dude, I have endless stories, so you're just gonna have to tell me when to stop. But
well, question for you then: when you visited those gyms in Japan, I'm wondering if you had similar experiences to myself when I would visit gyms, let's say in like Brazil. Because when I was based in Rio, I had my home gym. For the first year and a half, I trained at Gordo's, and then after that, I moved to the other part of the city, which was like back then like a 2-hour bus ride. And, you know, I started training at De La Riva's, and that became my home gym. But over the years, I always made a point of visiting different gyms and trying to train at different places. We did a lot of it through Connection Rio, because we had this hostel for jiu-jitsu guys, and we would often arrange like once a month. We'd go, okay, now we're going to go visit Gracie Barra. Now we're going to go visit this gym. Now we're going to go visit this gym. And the experience that I had in Brazil was always quite similar, because I was like a purple and brown belt around this time. And anytime we would turn up to a new gym, we would be received politely, but then you'd be, if you were slightly more advanced, if you were just like a white or blue, then you'd have to run the gauntlet. And, you know, they would put you up against, oh, my friend, go with this guy. And it was always like the first guy was kind of test you out, see where your level was at. And, you know, if you passed the test, then you would, like a video game, you would just get increasingly tougher opponents as it went on. There's almost like video game bosses, like you would just level up each time. I remember that happened to me once at Gracie Tijuca, which is it's Gracie Maita, but in a different part of the city. And Gracie Tijuca was like a super old school traditional gym with a very, very strong competition sort of heritage.
Is that Hywel in charge?
So Hywel was no longer in Rio at this point, but same team, yes. But Gracie Tijuca was, like I said, it was in the same neighborhood as the famous Tijuca Tennis Club. So it was, you know, probably about 45 minutes, half hour away from the original Gracie Maita, which was like a very old school small gym. But the Gracie Tijuca was like, was just, it seemed like where maybe some of the tougher competitors trained at that time. And I arrived and I was a brown belt, and I got put with a brown belt who was roughly the same age and weight as me. And it was like competition sort of intensity. This brown belt came at me, and I remember really clearly that if you had scored it, it kind of ended like 2-2, one advantage apiece, something like that. It was like a very, very close round. And I didn't go in there like trying to throw my weight around. I went in there respectfully, but I was like, I understood what was happening, and I just, I matched the guy's intensity, and it was a good technical roll, and I think I passed the test, and I'm like, okay, very good. And I'm not kidding, like every round I got after that was a black belt, and it started off like an 80 kilogram, like 1 degree black belt. Then the next round was like a 90 kilogram 2nd degree black belt. And by the end, after about 3 or 4 black belts, they put me with this guy who must have weighed at least 110 kilograms and was like a 4th degree black belt. And he probably collar choked me about 5 times in a 5-minute round. It was just, I could not move this guy. He would just smash me and just strangle me politely and technically, but fuck, that was tough. That was some tough training.
That's really cool to have that depth of talent at a gym, back in the day. It just shows how deep it goes in Brazil.
It does, yeah. And, that's kind of the standard gringo treatment, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anytime you turn up at a new gym in Brazil, they're gonna do that to you. But as a gaijin, as a foreigner, did you get any similar experiences in Japan?
Not really. I don't really have anything like that where I was like tested, I don't think. Japanese people are mostly very sort of, it's a weird mix. Obviously, they're not one homogenous nation, although they can give that impression sometimes. There's different people with different attitudes, but the general attitude is very kind of, it's matter of fact, but it's also quite playful. If they are much, much better than you, then you will leave the role knowing that they are much, much better than you. They don't necessarily have to like try and murder you, but they will put a stamp on it, with a smile on their face. I'm just trying to think. I've had some very, very heavy rounds in Japan, yeah, but never with a kind of, wait, let me just think. Not really with any kind of malice, I don't think.
Or is like that maybe part of the Japanese culture that's kind of based around like face, maybe, and maybe they don't necessarily want to smash you too bad because it's like it would almost be disrespectful to show how much better they are than you, and like it's
maybe
almost like
you're also a visitor to the gym and the country, but I don't know, like they definitely don't mind putting it on me. I mean, I got one story that may be relevant now. Is last time we were in Japan, I was with my friends Billy and Steven and the guys that live and work there, and we were kind of deciding what to do, and the choice was Lotus, which is mostly an MMA gym where like Shinya Aoki and Kohei Yasumi and people train, and Igloo, which is like a straight jiu-jitsu gym. And we were a bit like battered from, maybe it was leg lock camp or something, so we were like, look, Lotus is going to be really hard work, they're all going to be like Aggie MMA guys, the grappling is going to be really stiff and tough, let's just go to Igloo and do jiu-jitsu. And I was like, yeah, cool. And then went to Igloo and just got fucking wrecked by like a whole bunch of people I'd never met. Really, really tough rounds. Like, I mean, not quite gym enforcer level, but just like no fucking around. I need a few rounds to get warm. I like to go hard, but like my body needs to be completely warm. I need to have had a few rounds to get going. But I'm like, I mean, you probably got a little bit of it as well. I do have a slightly kind of, I think a lot of jiu-jitsu people do. If you get into the situation, then you don't mind meeting like whatever level of intensity. Like I can get to the point where I don't care if I'm going to get injured. I don't care if I'm going to pass out. If the round feels like that, then we just do it. I don't know if you have.
It's almost like a mutual agreement, right?
Yeah. And then you're just like, okay, fuck it, it's on. But I need a few rounds to get to that sort of zone.
Right.
And
I don't like doing it cold. I don't like it when I'm kind of like, okay, first round, let's just get the body moving, and then the guy comes at you trying to take your head off. That's always a bit of a shock, right?
Yeah. Well, that's basically what happened at Igloo. And I was just on the side of the mat, just like, oh, what the fuck? Like, so
Who's
yeah.
out of igloo? Isn't Kenta's out of igloo, right?
Kenta, I'm pretty sure. I mean, he's all over the place now, but I'm pretty sure he did the majority of his training there. Igor Tanabe, the Fat Ninja. And then there is Daiki Yonekura, a smaller guy, but fucking lethal leg locks. And the guy that fucked me up
No.
was called...
Daiki's really good.
Yeah, Daiki's excellent. I forgot the guy's name. And then there was like a bunch of half Brazilian, half Japanese guys that were just slick as anything. And yeah, it was a absolute crushing. But it was fun. Very friendly with it.
So if you think back then through all these experiences of meeting and training with the pros, like who are some of the best guys that we've had the privilege of training with? Go on, throw a name out. We'll take turns.
Damn, I mean, we covered quite a lot of them. The guys that I've mentioned probably make up the main portion of it, but then maybe I can add on some European and UK guys. Dan Strauss is a very, very tough role, unbelievably strong, very technical, very fast. There's a bunch of guys we sponsor. George Pierce, he's very methodical, very kind of powerful. Like his isometric strength is amazing. I mean, I've been through most of the good ones, but I wanted to add one more. There's Ross Nichols, a fellow Welshman, unbelievably talented black belt. And I've only trained with him a few times, but every time at the end of it, he'll say, hey, you keep doing this. Why don't you do this? And completely change or add something absolutely amazing to my game. He did it the last 2 times. And, that was very, very helpful for me. Most of these other guys, it's just like, hey, try and survive for a few minutes and then shake hands and then laugh and walk off. But Ross has given me really, really good tips.
That's
how about
really
you?
Cool. It's interesting that obviously I've been around so many pros throughout my time, and I've had the privilege of being in the same room as the best guys sort of, probably in the last 15, 20 years of the sport, I've been around them. But because I've often been in the situation of having the camera in my hand and filming, I haven't always had the opportunity to train with as many of these guys as I would have liked. And to be honest, I've always thought as well that it's maybe not like the best idea to train some of these guys, because I'm not really sure how much I can offer. I'm not really sure what it is that I can actually sort of get out of that experience, just because they're so much better than me. But there have been a couple of opportunities or a couple of training trips that I've had where I've actually got like, it was a very specific training time with some high level guys. And the best guy who I've had the privilege of training with, and he's one of the greatest of all time, was I trained with Marcelo. And that was just absolutely incredible. So it was back in 2010. I was still a purple belt, and I decided, it was before I moved to Brazil, and I decided to do a week-long training trip in New York. And I went to Marcelo's, and I trained there twice a day, every day for a week. And I think I rolled with Marcelo maybe twice during that week. And it's great because Marcelo is like, man, if you visit Marcelo's gym, he usually makes a point of training with you, which is really cool. And it doesn't matter who you are. You could be a blue belt or a black belt. He'll be like, oh, you're in my gym. Let's do a round. So when he called me over at first, I was a little bit like, fuck, this is Marcelo. I was a little bit sort of starstruck. But, we rolled, and he probably gave me about 5%, but it was really, really cool. And then later we were doing like King of the Mat drills. And for some reason, I'm not sure how this ended up, but I was in his group of like King of the Mat, because they split it into like maybe 5 or 6 guys in the middle. And then, each guy would have a group of about sort of 5 to 8 guys who would cycle in and out of them. And I ended up doing King of the Mat with Marcelo. And it was really cool because, just like you said with Ross about how he picked up something and kind of like showed it to you, Marcelo did the same thing to me. He kept catching me with his omoplata, and through the sort of the process of doing this round, like he kind of hit it once, and I was like, okay, cool. And then he did it again, but he kind of like got halfway to putting it on, and it's almost like he kind of let me identify the position, and I was like, okay, I can make some adjustments. And then he kind of let me out, and then he kind of went for it again, but this time I saw it coming, so he kind of gave me some real-time feedback while we were rolling, which was really,
Yeah.
really nice. So that was cool. But
Mm.
Marcelo was very, very nice to me. But you know who? He, again, was probably nice to me, but tapped me out just like a freaking, like I was playing drums, was Kyotera. Oh, man. I could not do a fucking thing to Kyotera. And I didn't go in there with any, grand ideas that I was going to, do well against Kaio. Kaio's freaking incredible, but he's also a lot smaller than me. Kaio is not a big guy. And I couldn't even make one meaningful grip on him. Like, I would just touch him and instantly that would become his, and that would become his point of leverage, and he would sweep me or he would submit me. It was just ridiculous, like how fucking surgical that guy was on everything that he did, and also incredibly strong for a very, very small guy.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like a few years ago, those lightweights or whatever, very, very small guys were phenomenal. Like Bruno Malfacini, guys like that. I guess they had to be super technical and, maintain as much strength as they could along with that. Yeah, I bet those guys are amazing.
Yeah, so that was fun. I gotta say, I think Marcelo and Kaio are the two guys who really stand out to me the most as to the two high level pros I train with. I always think about when I think about sort of the hands on time that I've got with the highest level guys, because guys like Craig and Dillon and stuff like that. That was fun, but I didn't come away from those sessions feeling like I'd learned a ton. I just came away from those sessions thinking, yeah, that was fun. I survived. That was cool. Whatever, just chalk it up and stuff. But Marcelo and Kaio, they left an impression, let's say. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, I do miss kind of traveling around and training a little bit. I'm more hesitant to do it nowadays as I kind of get older because, especially walking into a gym as a black belt, I feel like there is a little bit more of a target on your back. And I enjoy training with other high-level guys, brown and black belts, because I usually feel like those guys they don't have anything to prove. And also they're a little more conscious of who they're training with, and they kind of dial it back accordingly. The thing that I hate most about visiting any new gym is when you've got some freaking 20-year-old blue belt athletic killer who is like, oh yeah, I'm going to show this guy how good I am. I'm like, oh God, here we go. Yeah, I'm going to fight for my life here. Probably spend the next 5 minutes surviving. That's never fun. So yeah.
I mean, so I did plenty of rounds over the last, in Spain with people. I still now I have no clue. They could have been blue belts, they could have been black belts, no clue. But I generally approach it where like I basically don't care if I get tapped. I don't want to get injured. No one wants to get injured. But usually, if I'm tapping, I can usually find a reason for it that isn't that I'm just shit at jiu-jitsu. I can usually find a reason which is like they have a very nice set of moves that trumps the set of moves that I was using at that time. They might have moved, or they might have been a little bit more explosive when I was a little bit too relaxed, and then that gained them like a really good position. I might have had 6 or 7 beers the night before, whereas they had an early night, So I like, as long as I can kind of like square it all away in my mind, I really don't mind who I train with, how hard they go, and how hard they tap me. Like, as long as I can vaguely identify what went wrong and then like maybe file it away for review later, I really don't care. And like sometimes you just fuck up and you're like, oh my God, I'm so shit. But I think those are pretty normal emotions.
Have you ever had let's say, have you ever had like a gym visit, or if you ever had an experience where you've gone to train somewhere and you've left feeling like that was not good and I wish I'd never gone?
I mean, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can think of one that didn't go well. I don't want to say where it was or anything, but I dislocated my shoulder like a week before, and I didn't know how to. It was overseas, so I didn't really know how to deal with the injury. I didn't have any advice or anything. The shoulder had popped back in, and I wanted to make the most of the trip, so I carried on training. And then as I was trying to sweep in some way, and I posted out, and I felt my shoulder like wobble again. And in fact, most of the times where I've sort of had a shit time have been around injuries. And then I was just feeling like really frustrated and annoyed. And I think some kid was like all over me. I say kid, like it wasn't like a child or anything, but it was a young lad. And I think I sort of powered through a sweep and then fucking wrist locked him. And I think I hurt him quite badly. And I immediately was like, what the fuck am I doing? And then he was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. And then later on, after we all got changed, it was not fine. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I've only ever had moments like that once or twice, but so it's usually me that regrets something. I don't regret what other people have done. It's usually like if I've acted like a dick or, that's happened once or twice.
It happened to me once. I visited a gym. I was still living in the UK, and I was living in one city, and I traveled down to another to go train. And I'd been invited by a member of this gym to come and train. And they told me, oh yeah, it'll be cool. Just come down and train here. You can lend my gi, we'll go and train. Everything will be cool. And it was not cool. And I found out very, very quickly in the training that actually this particular gym didn't really like visitors. And I guess the person who invited me wasn't aware of that fact, or it could have been something personal. I really don't know. I went in there respectfully, like I always do. And, I went up and I introduced myself to the main guy. And I was like, hey, thanks. I'm a friend of so-and-so. They said I could come down and train. I hope that's okay. And they're like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay. So anyway, by that point it's too late and we're in the training session. And that particular session left an impression on me because, number one, they made me run the gauntlet. They had the kind of like the hot shots come after me from the very, very beginning. And it was competition level intensity from the very beginning. But then the thing that really pissed me off was when I was training. I think I was a purple belt at the time, and I was training with another purple belt. And the thing that really pissed me off was when I was training with this guy and they turned the clock off mid-round and they just let it go. Yeah. Yeah. And they were all like sat like 5-6 feet away from the pair of us rolling, coaching him while I'm training with this guy. And they turned the clock off. And I kind of, at some point, I'm thinking like, fuck, this round's been going on a while. I look over the wall and the clock has been unplugged. And it just went on and on and on. And I'm like, fuck. And yeah, that
sounds quite traumatic.
Not traumatic. I didn't come out of it. Luckily for me, I didn't get beat up by anybody. I held my own at the time, but it just left a really bad taste in my mouth, and it just made me think, "Fuck, am I ever going back to that place?"
Yeah,
so,
weird.
Very
they
strange.
Wanted to put it on you.
Yeah, that was a weird fucking vibe, man. That was a very, very weird vibe. But hey, luckily, most of my training experiences have been pretty positive when visiting places. So
yeah, I got the same thing. So next week we will have a little break, and that is because you are going to Dubai. Is that right?
I am. Yes, for Quintet, which I'm pretty excited for actually. This is going to be really cool. This is technically, I guess, this is Quintet number 5. Quintet's been running for ages now, but they kind of quite often have like these long breaks between their events, right? And the last Quintet event that happened, both of us were there. That was when, of course, B Team won against Polaris in back there in Tokyo, and that was freaking epic. That was my first Quintet event that I've been to. Obviously, I know you have a kind of long history of you being at the Quintet events, but I'm quite excited that this Quintet event is taking place in Dubai. A little bit different, it seems. It is a numbered quintet. It's not like a regional variation of Quintet. It's a true Quintet event. But it's really exciting because what they've done, and they've already released like the actual sort of team bracket. They've put together 4 kind of very interesting teams that have like some really cool old school Japanese MMA links. And the 4 teams are, you've got Sakuraba's got a team Saku 39. You've got Team Renzo Gracie. You've got Team Nogueira. And then you've got Bang Tao, which is the gym, the MMA, Muay Thai grappling gym based out of Thailand. But leading that one is actually going to be Bob Sapp. So you've got these 4 legendary names from sort of the greatest period of Japanese MMA history ever. You know, you got Sakuraba, Renzo Gracie, Minotauro, and Bob Sapp. And those guys they're going to act as the head coaches for these 4 teams. And they've put together actually a pretty cool roster of athletes. The thing I like about Quintet is that they always have some really good names, some like really like standout grapplers. And then they also throw in like a bunch of randoms who are like just total wild cards in there as well. So I'm just going to go through some of them really quickly. We've got the Sakuraba team has got like Haisam Rida, Igor Tanabe, Daisuke Nakamura, who obviously are 3 really, really good names from Japan. But then Taisei Sakuraba, who is Sakuraba's son, he's going to be on that squad as well. Yeah. And I never even knew that Sakuraba had a son until the last Quintet that we went to. And he had a super fight that he won, I think it was by knee bar. And I was like, oh my God, Sakuraba's got a son and he's actually pretty good at grappling.
Yeah.
So then moving on, we've got the Renzo Gracie. They've put together a team, obviously all Brazilians, as you probably expect. And you got a couple of names. You've got Talson Suarez, who's based out of Dubai. You got Delson Heleno. He's the better known as Peji Shumbo. He is just man, I don't even know how old he is now. He's got to be 50 years old. This guy's been competing for he's been competing at the highest level for like 30 years. And he is notorious in that, man, in all the time I've seen him competing, I've probably seen people score points on him like about 3 or 4 times. Like, it is just impossible to beat this guy. I don't think I've ever seen him submitted. Gi or no gi. Yeah, he's fought everybody you can ever think of. He's ADCC veteran. He's very, very tough. And then Neiman Gracie as well. And Neiman is another super good guy from that kind of clique, the New York, New Jersey kind of scene there that the Renzo Gracie team has. Team Nogueira is pretty interesting because Team Nogueira, they've got a really big gym in Dubai, and the main guy on that team is Puyal Rahmani, the giant Iranian who looks like if you needed a typical Iranian or Persian warrior to kind of be in like a historic movie or something, he's the kind of guy that you can literally envisage being on the battlefield with a gigantic sword just taking people's heads off. He looks like he was made for battle. This guy, he is an absolute monster as well. Then you got a couple of guys on the team who I'm not familiar with. I'm looking forward to finding out more. But then you also got Thiago Sa, who is the jiu-jitsu coach there at Team Nogueira in Dubai, and he's really good checkmate black belt. And then the Bangtao team is actually really interesting and quite diverse as well, because Alex Schild is the jiu-jitsu coach out of there, but then they've also brought in Lucas Barbosa, Hulk, who's really, really good. They've got 2 guys from 10th Planet. You got PJ Barch. PJ's awesome. And then Kamoy Anderson. Kamoy is a really, really tough black belt as well. Excellent truck game. I used to train with Kamoy actually back in Austin when he lived in the States, but he's been based in Southeast Asia for a while now. He's really tough.
All right.
And then this is the wild card that they've got on their team. They've got Dong Hyun Kim, Stun Gun, the Korean MMA fighter. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's actually a really freaking cool lineup. So yeah, 4 teams, 5 guys each. They're going to have a couple of super fights. I don't think they've actually announced the super fights yet. But
we've announced one, but I think it's two local guys.
Well, they've announced the bracket, and it's really cool because Renzo versus Sakuraba, Team Renzo versus Team Sakuraba, it looks like it's going to be first round. And then, of course, Bob Sapp Bangtao versus Nogueira first round. So what they've done is they've taken those old rivalries from the world of Japanese MMA, and they've kind of got the rematches, so to speak, with the teams on either side of the bracket. And did you know, Matt, you know that this year is the 25th anniversary of Renzo versus Sakuraba in Pride?
Damn.
Yeah. It took place in 2000 at Pride.
10.
What was it? Pride 10. There you go. Yeah, that is that's kind of wild because I remember that really well. And
I
yeah,
remember the
iconic
arena
moment.
had a weird like open space around the at the top of the stairs because you could see it in the broadcast. There was like a yeah,
That's awesome. So
that's
yeah,
crazy.
really excited for the next quintet. I think it's going to be really fun. Going to be on the commentary team with myself, Braulio, and a couple of others. Alex Wendling's going to be there
Nice.
as well. So very, very excited for that. Very excited to be a part of it. And quintet is always just a lot of fun. You know,
It's a very special show.
it is, right? Because it was the first like major jiu-jitsu event to even bring in the teams. We just didn't really see that in professional grappling up until Quintet came around. And the whole kind of like the survival aspect that the winner stays on is really cool. I do feel like this year the teams has been a real feature of pro grappling throughout 2025 with AIGA, with Polaris squads, with CJI. So the
Yeah.
teams is maybe not as unique as it once was, but I feel like Quintet has like a it still has like a special appeal to it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think anything Sakuraba touches, people are kind of interested in. And the format, the kind of original quintet format is really interesting. In that you could fly 5 people over there and only one of them actually compete, which is completely insane.
Yeah, that's happened,
Um,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like the rule sets, there are other rule sets out there that have evolved the concept, but I think we all owe it to Sakuraba and Quintet for kind of kicking off the idea. And like he got the idea from, I'm pretty sure it was judo or wrestling meets where they would bring teams. It would be like a straight knockout. Um, he kind of took it from those sports. And it's a cool idea.
It's interesting because this is it's Quintet in Dubai for the first time. They did have the Quintet in Las Vegas, like you said, but all the other events for Quintet, the official Quintet events, have been in Japan. So it's basically the same old quintet. It is actually a numbered quintet. It's the actual quintet people behind this, but they've partnered up with some guys in Dubai, and I wonder if this is the start of something new. Whether they're going to maybe invest more in this area, in this market, and
Hopefully.
we might see quintet continue because as a jiu-jitsu fan, man, sometimes it's tough to have to wait a few years between quintet events, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've had sit-down meetings with Quintet before, and they've laid out like grand plans for kind of world domination, and we could help them out in Europe, and we were ready to go, So I would love to see them continue and cooperate with other shows. I really like their, I really like the idea of pre-existing gyms or teams or affiliations banding together. Like, can you imagine if you were to host a quintet event in like California and it was I don't know, Atos versus, I don't know, tell me another California gym.
10th Planet.
There you go. Atos
Yeah,
versus 10th Planet. And the
yeah.
crowd would be so hype. There would be Atos on one side, 10th Planet on the other side. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. And I mean, whoever ends up doing it, I think you could run a teams event in the same way that football is run. You could have towns, you could have nations, and have like in a perfect world, I would love to do squads every weekend and have town versus town, but also have country versus country, and then some kind of World Cup type event at the end. That would be really
Wow.
cool. Yeah,
Oh, that would be amazing. Oh, I'd love to see that. That would be so cool.
yeah,
That would be so
yeah,
cool. And speaking of squads, we do have squads final coming up on 1st of November. So we'll skip next week's episode. But maybe we can sit down and we can record something around the time of Polaris squads in the UK.
yeah. You'll be here, so yeah.
I
Let's
will
try
be
and
there.
get some time together.
Awesome. That would be really fun. And then just one thing I wanted to ask before we wrap up today's episode is you guys put up something on Instagram this week, a little unofficial poll, so to speak, of where fans would like to see Polaris go next in 2026. And there were a few locations. So what's that about? You got some plans to go on the road next year?
Well, think some things will be changing next year. We'll be doing more shows, and we feel like it's time to sort of spread the love a little bit. Maybe show people in England that they can't get complacent. You know, they got to come watch the shows, otherwise we'll go somewhere else. But no, I'm kidding. But we'd like to go to Poland because Poland is such a insane like hotbed of talent and support. And also Ireland for the same reasons. And also the Irish fans are just amazing. You know, they'll turn up and support.
Yeah, they will. And they've
Ireland
never had like a big pro event in Ireland yet. They've got a few few regional events, but
there's
they've
a
never
couple
had
that
like
that look really good. And I forget the name. I'm really bad, but they pack out sort of theaters the same size that we normally use. But for whatever reason, it's just proving really, really difficult. I think the kind of commissions that are in charge of combat sports events are very hesitant because there was a death and like a organized crime related things going on, and so that as soon as you mention like a combat sport, everyone basically says no.
Yeah.
But it's not. We're not going to give up. Poland, we're fairly close to arranging something, but the poll came out with Ireland on top. So.
A lot of Irish fans out there. They love jiu-jitsu out there.
A lot of good Irish athletes and lots of Irish fans. Yeah.
That'll be awesome. Cool. Well, I think that'll be a great time to wrap up today's episode. Just a reminder that if you enjoyed it, please make sure you either rate this if it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave a like if you've seen this on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and follow. We appreciate it a lot. The podcast has been getting some really good feedback over the last couple of weeks, and we really appreciate all of those support. And hopefully we can keep this going with more cool stuff. So thanks, Matt, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.
See you then.